Federal judge in Texas says that he may come down hard on the Justice Department in the ongoing battle over the president's executive actions on immigration. At issue here is whether or not the administration misled the judge about the plan. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, also former Texas Attorney General, with me now live in Austin. How are you, sir? And welcome back here, Governor.
Great to be back, Bill. I'm doing great. Thanks.
What is the allegation about misleading the judge? On what aspect of that order?
Well, when I filed the lawsuit back in December, what the Department of Justice and the federal government and Jay Johnson were supposed to do was to hold the status quo and not to begin to implement Barack Obama's new executive action. And there was a conference call where the judge in Texas, in Brownsville, asked all the parties to hold everything just the same and not to begin to implement the executive action until the judge had a chance to issue his decision on this.
Okay, so the executive action applies to what, like work permits and certain reprieves?
It applies to two things, Bill. It applies first to deferred action by the Obama administration, and it also provides those who would be subject to the deferred action work permits. But this is the key point I wanted to get across because it gives insight to the general public what happened yesterday in the courtroom. Because this is what the judge said to Barack Obama's lawyer. He said, I asked you for the facts at the earlier hearing, and like an idiot, I believed what you said as the judge was talking to the lawyer. And then the judge followed that up by saying, can I believe what Secretary Jay Johnson is saying? Can I believe what the president is saying? And the counsel for the president, Jay Johnson, stood silent for a second, and the judge came back and said, I expect an answer to my question. And only begrudgingly did the lawyer for the administration come up and say, well, yes, you can. But because of what happened in the courtroom yesterday, it's clear that once again the lawyers for the Obama administration actually misled the judge. And so I think these lawyers for the administration and the administration itself are digging themselves a huge hole from which they will not be able to get out.
Okay, now the judge is a district judge. Andrew Hanen's his name. We just put a picture of him on the screen. What the administration is saying, though, is that the law does not apply to a certain year. The year in question was 2012. Is that the case, Governor, or not?
Well, see, and this is exactly how their lawyers got in trouble. Because their lawyers were arguing, listen, they were just applying the 2012 DACA or deferred action. Well, the 2012 DACA or deferred action allowed for a 2-year time period. The new executive order issued by the president in this past November provided for a 3-year deferred action. What happened after that first conference with the judge is the administration began offering this 3-year deferred action to more than 100,000 people across the country, about 109,000 people. So it shows when the administration lawyers were saying, flat out lying.
This is the issue now, and if the judge rules against the administration, what happens?
Well, several things can happen. One, obviously, the executive order will be stricken down, but secondly, and more importantly, the judge
that's a big deal. Hang on, that's a big deal. You're saying the executive order could be struck down?
Yes, and we believe that the trial court judge is going to strike down the executive order because it's clear that what the president has done here is abandon the Constitution and rewritten the immigration laws contrary to the way Congress wrote them, and that's a complete abdication of the president's responsibility under the federal Constitution.
Greg Abbott, thank you very much for your time. The governor there in Texas, and wow, if you're right, we'll see what comes next, okay? Thank you for coming back with us today in Austin, Texas. Thank you,
Thank you, Bill.